This episode is dedicated to and about military dads. If you're actively serving or a veteran and you're trying to find purpose and balance in fatherhood, you're going to want to stick around for this episode. My guest will share his story and journey from being a soldier to being a veteran dad in just a moment, so don't go anywhere. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our proud sponsor of this episode and the Fatherhood Challenge, Ingenious Prep. Ingenious Prep is the world's premier admissions consulting firm, proud to be officially recognized as the country's top college admissions consultants, helping students prepare for admissions to top schools through individualized educational programs that increase chances of admission by up to 10 times. Ingenious Prep students work with former admission officers to differentiate themselves from other competitive students in 3 areas colleges evaluate students: in academics, extracurricular activities, and personal characteristics. Just this past admission cycle, Ingenious Prep students have secured 110 offers from Ivy League schools, 268 offers from top 20 schools, and 904 offers from top 50 schools. Ingenious Prep student success lies within the fact that Ingenious Prep is an all-in-one consulting firm offering every service a family needs, whether it be test prep, tailored candidacy building mentorship, academic mentorships, the Leadership and Innovation Lab, soft skills courses, writing courses, and other customized programs to develop their application persona to the most effective and authentic extent to share with colleges. Just click on the link in the episode description to book a free strategy call with one of Ingenious Prep's college experts, or you can visit ingeniusprep.com. That's ingeniusprep.com. and let them know you came from the Fatherhood Challenge.
Welcome to the Fatherhood Challenge, a movement to awaken and inspire fathers everywhere to take great pride in their role and to challenge society to understand how important fathers are to the stability and culture of their family's environment. Now, here's your host, Jonathan Guerrero.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My guest is Joseph Peck. Joseph is a successful vice president and financial advisor and father. But before that, he was a soldier, and he's here to share his journey to fatherhood. Joseph, thank you so much for being on the Fatherhood Challenge.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Jonathan. Thank you for having me.
Joseph, what is your favorite dad joke?
I have been telling this joke even before I was a father. When I was in high school, I was giving a presentation and the computer stopped working, the PowerPoint stopped working, and it was me and my partner working on the presentation, standing up there staring at about 60 adults. And I pulled this joke out, and it has never ceased to fail me. It is hands down my favorite dad joke, so this is the way it goes. There are 2 muffins in an oven. One muffin turns to the other and says, "Oh my gosh, we're in an oven." The second muffin looks at the other one and says, "Oh my God, you're a talking muffin." Hands down, my favorite dad joke.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Glad to do so. I love that that's the way this show starts, so thank you.
So, Joseph, please share your story from what made you want to join the military and what was your experience like while you were in?
Absolutely. I wanted to join the military pretty early on since I was an early teenager, and I really just wanted to serve the country. I was kind of hot-headed, like a lot of young men are. You know, I wanted to do things that were exciting. I wanted to go travel the world. I liked confrontation, so I was very much stereotypical, I guess you could say, for the kind of person that would enlist in the military. I decided to enlist in the Air Force, and that's what my grandpa did. My grandpa was enlisted in the Air Force. And I got put into the pharmacy position. So I was a pharmacy technician for the first several years. That was okay. Wouldn't have been my first choice as a job to be in the military. But I did that for several years. My wife and I had our first child while we were there. And we decided, you know what? We want to go back home. I'm out of Arizona. And we wanted to go back to Arizona. And at the time, the Air Force was doing a program to where you could go from active duty to the reserve, and you could finish out your contract in the reserve. So doing 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks of the year instead of being full time. And so I did that. And as soon as I got back to Arizona, they called me up and said, "Hey, you're going to go to training. You're reactivated for 6 more months. and I went to Gulfport, Mississippi, and I trained to be in the civil engineering department, the civil engineering group, to where I did construction for the military for the next 6 years. And being in the reserve, I was activated off and on. I would do 6 months. I wouldn't do anything. I'd go back to civilian life. I'd do 2 weeks, go back to civilian life. Deployed for 6 months, go back to civilian life. And I did that until 2022 when I finally got out after 10 years.
What was your transition like into fatherhood? What were some of your personal struggles and how did you deal with them?
My transition into fatherhood was a lot different than most. My wife and I have known each other since we were in high school, and we got married at 19 and 20, and we had our first son at 21 and 20. So I was very, very young being a dad. I was working 12-hour days, gone all the time. So it was a very abrupt transition into fatherhood. You know, I would say the most difficult thing for me personally, of course, was that I was gone all the time, but it was coming home to my wife who had she was uprooted from her entire community to come be with me and marry me, on the other side of the country from where she lived. And coming home to see that she was really isolated and she didn't have a community, and we didn't have a lot of money. We had one car. She really couldn't go anywhere because I was at work all the time. The most difficult thing for me was the complete and total responsibility of two living beings that I was now completely responsible for. And I hadn't thought of that before. I was excited to become a dad. I was excited to be a good husband, which I tried to be, and I wanted to do all these different things. And then it kind of smacked me in the face that, hey, you're 21 and you have a ton of responsibility now to put food on the table, but also be an emotional support, right? And be a mental support and be pretty much my wife and my son's entire community, because we were very isolated. That was a heck of a struggle, and the transition was bumpy. I'm not going to lie, it was bumpy, but it's a team effort, in my opinion, right? Between me and my wife. It was a complete team effort to transition into parenthood. And I can't speak for everybody, but as far as myself and my wife, we really became very, very codependent. We really depended on each other, and we leaned on each other a lot.
In some ways, it seems like really that transition actually brought you closer together.
I would absolutely agree. We talk about it frequently nowadays because that was, a long time ago. All of the bad things that happened, and there was a lot of drama when I left active duty and I went to the reserve. Family drama, career drama. There was a lot of things that happened that led up to that decision, and the events around that decision and the events around that action. And it really grew us closer together because, to be quite honest, we didn't really have anybody else. It was just us two. And I think it really did make us stronger than ever. And it made our bond with our son very incredibly strong. And it made the unit that we were, the small, 3-person unit, it made us unbreakable. And it ended up paying off dividends in the future. Absolutely. And now we have 4 boys. So I've got 4 sons. And I like to think that we are very as strong as ever just because of all of the adversity we went through.
That's interesting. I thought I just heard you refer to your family as a unit. Interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that nowadays, especially because from my point of view, the nuclear family is absolutely under attack. The nuclear family isn't what it used to be, and it's very much going away. You have to be very defensive, in my opinion. And that's not to say that we're a unit, nobody's allowed inside of our inner circle, and everybody is horrible. No. You don't need to be negative and pessimistic about it. However, if you've got some traditional standards and morals and ethics, those aren't very popular nowadays. And you have to be very particular about the people you allow in your life, the environment you put yourself and your children around. And it's very much a unit. The way we run our family is very traditional, very nuclear. Me as the father, I'm the head of the household. I'm supported by my wife. And my sons, they are our team members. They do what they are told. They follow our rules, but they support at the same time. And they understand that we teach them the reasons we do everything. One of the funniest things that I really think that a lot of especially younger parents don't realize is your children are always listening constantly, and they do not forget. You can test this out with promising your 3-year-old an ice cream if they behave, right? You promise them ice cream, they are not going to forget that you promised them ice cream from McDonald's on the way home that day. There is
That's
no way
true.
in heck they're going to forget that, right? Well, just yesterday, Jonathan, there's a really old movie called Blackbeard's Ghost. It's a really, really funny movie about this little lodge in the New England area. These 3 sisters are descendants of Blackbeard, and it's a Disney comedy, very PG, very funny. It's from the 60s or 70s, I think. And it was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid, and I introduced it to my kids. Now, I haven't watched that movie in probably 6 years. So my other 2 sons, my youngest 2, weren't even born. My second oldest, though, his name is Dimitri. He was really young. He was probably, I think, 3 last time we watched it. And as God is my witness, Jonathan, I'm not joking. Just yesterday, he looks at me. We haven't talked about this movie in years. We haven't seen this movie in years. And he goes, "Dad, do you remember this part in Blackbeard's Ghost?" And he just starts to describe this entire very, very funny scene.
Wow.
I just kind of looked at him and I go, "How the heck do you remember that?" So to kind of bring this back to my original point, I promise you, your kids are listening and they do not forget. I don't care how old they are listening and they won't forget. So to treat my children that way and to treat them like a unit and to treat them like a team, I'll be a little bit harsh sometimes. I'll go, "Hey, don't pull that with me. You remembered Blackbeard's Ghost from 6 years ago. Don't pretend that I didn't tell you to pick up your room," right? So, we need to call them out a little bit and say, "Hey, I know you can remember this. I know you can do this because you remembered the most obscure movie scene that you shouldn't even remember at 3 years old. I know you can remember to do this." And my children understand that responsibility, and we do explain things to them quite frankly, like they're adults. We talk to them like they're adults. We talk to them like they're people. We don't dumb things down for them or baby talk or anything like that. We absolutely set the expectation. And don't get me wrong, we're not standing out there because I've got chickens, and we're not standing out there and saying, "Okay, my 7-year-old, you need to do all of this by yourself." No, you still understand that he's 7, but they are a member of the team, and they can act accordingly, and my children do that because we treat them that way, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciated everything that you just said. I remember my brother-in-law was a former Marine, and there was a big struggle when he got out because everyone he served with and served around, I mean, they were his brothers, they were family to him, and to make that transition into home life was definitely a struggle. I remember us actually giving him something with the Rifleman's Creed reworked a little bit. This is my family. There are many others like it, but this one is mine. Trying to get him to make that transition over into seeing his family as family in the same way that it was in the military. And in some ways that was a challenge, and in some ways we saw that stick a little bit. So
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things about kind of coming home and being back around the family and trying to view it the same way as the experience and the environment that you left, having those brothers, having those friends that you can really depend on. One of the things that I was told when I got back from deployment is, "Listen, you're going to come back and you're going to try to be the father of the house. You're going to try to be, the head honcho of the house." My old chief Fay, he looked at all of us and he goes, "If this is your first deployment," and it was mine, he goes, "Don't do anything." He said, "When you get back, you need to gently reintroduce yourself into this environment. You've been gone for 6 months. They have a routine. They have a method. And whatever you're going to come in and do, you're going to mess it all up. That's just the nature. Your wife is going to get mad at you. Your kids aren't going to understand. You are going to mess everything back up." And being a dad, and at the time I was an NCO, a non-commissioned officer, as a staff sergeant, I'm used to kind of taking authority. I'm used to kind of taking, responsibility and taking initiative and going and doing things and running things the way that I foresee being very successful, and just running with it and saying, no, these are the ways we're going to do. Now, even though my chief told me that, I'll tell you right now, it all went right out the window. I came back in, I tried to be, dad again. And my wife just kind of looked at me like, what are you doing? We don't do that. This is the time that they take their naps. This is the time we eat lunch. This is that. And I was like, whoa, what is happening? All of a sudden, I was dad, but I wasn't a part of that unit anymore. And that was really, really difficult to experience and to kind of comprehend that, right, even though I left for 6 months, back home didn't stop. So I was automatically closer to my team that I just lived with and been through a deployment with for 6 months. That was my own team. Those are the guys I was closest to, instead of my own blood, instead of my own children, instead of my own wife. I'll tell you, when I got home, I left when my second, I only did one tour. I left when my second son, the same child, Dimitri, he was 6 or 7 months old. And I got back when he was just over a year. And it was super difficult because he didn't even recognize me. So when I got home, he was actually terrified of me. He wouldn't come near me for about a week, 5 or 6 days, something like that. He wouldn't come near me. If I got close to him, he would scream and cry. He didn't know me. He didn't know me. I wasn't a part of this team. I wasn't a part of this unit anymore. I was completely this foreign person. Now, before that gets too sad and too down the dumps, don't worry. After about 6 or 7 days, maybe 5 or 6 days, he started to recognize me as the guy that they would video chat, 2 or 3 times a week. Okay, I think I know who this guy is. And then he really got to realize that, oh, this is dad. So my son and I are very, very close now. I work from home a lot. He cries if I'm in my office for too long and he doesn't see me. So we're very, very close now, thank goodness. But I think something like that, getting the rifleman's creed and reworking to be a father, I think that that's beautiful. And I think that that's a great idea, something I wish somebody had done for me, because the truth is that you're absolutely giving up your support system and you're trying to reintroduce yourself into what you think your system has always been, because it's home. It's what you should be used to. It's what your safe place, quote unquote, should be, but it's not. So I think something like that, to reaffirm that this is your unit, this is your team, this is where you belong, I think that's a beautiful thing.
The military has the stereotype of being very difficult on marriages, difficult on families. And so I'd like to look at it a little bit differently and ask, how did your military experience help you to become a really good dad?
That's an interesting question, because that's a tough question. And I think any veterans that are out there listening right now, they're probably going to laugh at that answer, because it's true. Being in the military can either make you a great dad or it can make you a really horrible dad. We see the stereotypes of, wake up at 5, have the kids make their bed, and, kind of the old movie from the 80s or 90s, Major Payne style parenting, and then there's veteran dads that aren't there at all, right? Because of, like you said, hard-on marriage and a divorce, or they're not there because they don't want to be and they can't handle it. There's a lot of different reasons for it, right? For me, I think the military made me a good dad just because it made me want to be home more. It made me, when I was home, I wanted to focus on it more. I see it a lot of time. This isn't a criticism. This is just an observation of today's society, which is when people get home, it's dinner, cell phone, movie, bed. Wake up, breakfast, work, home, dinner, cell phone, movie, bed, right? And there's not a lot of necessarily interaction, right? Which people can run their families as much as they want. For me, what it made me do is, because I was gone so long, I was gone so many times. And to be clear, in the military experience, I was home a lot more often than most vets. I did one tour in the Middle East and I did a couple stints of training. I was home a lot more than your average veteran. And when I say this, I hope that kind of tells people just how gone most veteran dads are, most veteran husbands are. because when I was home, it made me obsessive about being present. I would turn on the blue screen and grayscale on my phone so that my phone wasn't interesting to look at. So if I did look at something, I would get off of it in 30 seconds instead of getting in the doom scroll, right? Where you're sitting there for an hour and you're down this rabbit hole of, are there giants and lizards underneath the Denver airport? You know what I mean? Without getting into something like that, it would help me reassess and come out of it and spend time with my kids, put my cell phone down, not watch as many movies, maybe read a book or play with my child in a game they came up with or something like that. So for me, I think what the experience did for me is that because I was gone often, but again, not nearly as often as a lot of other vets, it made me really want to be present that much more.
What are 3 things you wish civilians understood about veteran dads?
I think that the main takeaway is more of wishing that civilians understood veterans a little bit more. It's just that we think about things differently. We attack certain scenarios differently. We're typically, on average, more disciplined. So if I had to say anything, I would say I really wish civilians just understood that you're probably not going to understand it too much. And to kind of give a little exposition on that, my sister-in-law is a CNA at the VA. So she's a nurse assistant at the Veterans Affairs Hospital here in one of them here in Phoenix. And my family doesn't really get my humor. It's pretty dark humor. And I've worked really hard over the last 10 years to kind of, mitigate that exposure to my family. And my sister-in-law, she gets it. Let's just say that. Because she works around these veterans and they don't self-censor necessarily. So they don't sugarcoat any of their jokes. They don't sugarcoat what their humor really is. Whereas me, I work very hard. I'm a clergyman in the church now. I've worked very hard to curb my tongue. I used to have, the mouth of a sailor, they would say. When I was in the service, I've worked very hard at curbing and censoring a lot of the things that come out of my mouth, as well as what enter my brain. My sister-in-law gets it because she sees a completely unadulterated, very raw form of what military humor is. And so I would say that if civilians can understand anything, just try to understand that there's a lot that your average 22-year-old in the service has been through that your average 70-year-old civilian has not. There's a lot that they've seen and a lot that they've experienced in just 4 years or 5 years out of high school. And while it's almost incomprehensible for the average civilian, you don't necessarily have to understand it. Don't degrade it, though. And that's something that we see a lot. There was that viral TikTok that went through of the group of like 5 people. There was one dude, he was Marine enlisted, and there was like this college grad PhD in microbiology or something like that. And she fancied herself the smartest person in the room. The Marine enlisted dude was just kind of like, whatever, really degraded upon, kind of made fun of. He turned out to be the smartest one with the highest IQ. So don't degrade our service, don't degrade kind of what we did. I think support is the number one thing, especially for enlisted. I can't tell you the amount of experiences I've had as a prior enlisted guy because I work in the corporate world now, to where it really seems like most of these veterans programs and a lot of these veterans careers, a lot of these initiatives or what these corporations are looking for are officers. They're looking for more mild-mannered than your average enlisted, college degree, and that kind of experience, instead of actually trying to set up what the majority of the military is, which is enlisted. So I'd say it's support. If you can understand and help with anything, just support. You're not going to truly be able to step into the shoes. Don't try to. It's a little bit more offensive when people do try to, honestly. But just support. Tell them that you're there for them.
What kind of support systems do veterans need in place to make parenting easier?
The support systems that have worked the best for me were my family. I come from a very healthy, very supportive family. My mom and my dad and my brother. I only have brothers, and I only make sons, so I'm from a very testosterone-fueled environment. I would say family support, going back to that same thing that I mentioned, you're not going to be able to put yourself in their shoes, but you don't have to. Just be there for them. And then the other thing that has been, continues to be, and always will be super helpful for me is faith, my belief system, my church, and my friends at church. Whether it's Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever it is, I've got my opinions, of course, about which is the right religion and etc. However, if a support network is there, take advantage of it. I'll give my opinions all day as to which theology is the best, and I can do that. This isn't that conversation right now. But one of the things that all religions do very, very well is support for their people. And I think having a basis of faith, believing in something bigger than yourself, number one, that's a very large part of a spirit of core in the military anyway. Believing in something bigger than yourself, but continuing that when you get out, and having that basis of faith that, number one, there is something bigger than yourself. Number two, your mission is not over. Your mission is not over when you get out of the service. God still has a plan for you. And having that community around you is really important. When I got out of active duty, and I was running a inpatient pharmacy, I was running an inpatient hospital pretty much, all the clinics and all the medication for the entire hospital. I got out, I was 21, and I had just been running this multi-million-dollar operation, and I was only qualified to pretty much file papers when I got into civilian service. That's all I would be hired for, is to be a waiter or to be an administrative assistant at God knows what company. That really hits a guy's ego. And for guys like that were in the Army or the Marines, I just was running, a 20 million piece of equipment. I was running a tank, and I was responsible for 15 souls out on the battlefield. And now I'm stocking shelves. I think it's imperative that guys and girls that were in the military, you have to understand that there's a bigger plan for you. Your mission is not over. You just have to find it. And the things that the family can do, and the things that the community of whatever religion that is, temple, synagogue, church, whatever it is, they can help you find that next mission, because job's not done. And vets need to understand that. There's always more to do, and you are valuable. I think that's the most important thing.
I'm glad you brought up church, because it's a lot of times, we do have veterans in the church, and we have several veterans in mine. And at first there's this awkwardness of what do we do with them? How do we relate to them? How do we work with them and cooperate? And I think the most important thing that I seem to get out of what you're saying is what veterans need and want the most out of their church family is exactly, well, I said the word family. They need it's as simple as that. They need a family to integrate into. And then the other component of it is leadership. They bring so many skills, leadership skills, education skills that they can offer the church that can actually help the church's mission advance.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't put yourself in their shoes, right? You're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be an IT tech, you're going to be whatever it is in the church. And I get it, because I've experienced it. Walking in, people know that I was in the military, and they kind of stare for a second. Okay. I walked into my uniform one time when I was fresh out of boot camp, because I had to leave in my uniform. I couldn't wear civilian clothes, and everybody just kind of stared at me, right? You can't put yourself in my shoes, but you can be there for me. You can be there for them. Don't try to, when you have kids, everybody says, oh, well, I'm a dog mom or a cat mom. And I absolutely respect that, but I hate it when people say that. Listen, having a dog and a cat is nothing like having a child. So in that same sense, no offense to anybody, in that same sense, you can't say, well, when I was going through a really rough time, went waiting tables for 16 hours. It was probably pretty similar to when you were getting bombed in Syria, right? No, it wasn't.
Oh,
Okay, no offense, but it wasn't. Don't try to put yourself in those same shoes. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And it's really just going to upset not just the veteran, but probably everybody around you. Also, they're going to be like, dude, what the heck, right?
mm-hmm.
But you can be there for them and go, listen, I have no idea what it's like to get shot at. I have no idea what it's like to get bombed. Even for guys that separated from the service right after boot camp. The average civilian has no idea what it's like to get off a bus at 18 years old with all you have is a bag to your name and all of a sudden have 6 full-grown men screaming at the top of your lungs at you at 1 a.m. Civilians have no idea what that's like, and that is the very beginning of what the military career is like. That is the initial, that is why they call it basic training. That is the very basics of what it's like to be in the military. 99% of civilians have no idea what it's like to be screamed at like that for hours on end in the middle of the night. So don't try to, say we get it. You don't, but it's okay. Just be there. Just support. Just help in any way that you can, whatever that specific veteran needs.
How can veteran dads or families of veterans get in touch with you to ask questions or get help with their journey?
Absolutely. So, again, I'm a vice president and financial advisor at a broker. I love helping vets get work, get jobs. I'm very connected in the Phoenix area, all throughout Arizona. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I've got an Instagram, which is 111 TRIPLE, the number 1 _JGP, Juliet Golf Papa. So 111 _JGP. I've also got a LinkedIn, which is just Joseph Peck. Reach out to me via LinkedIn. Again, you'll see Vice President Financial Advisor on my bio. Reach out to me through there or just shoot me an email. And the email is nice and simple. It's Joseph, the letter G, Peck @gmail.com. First name, letter G, Peck @gmail.com. The number one reason why I'm on this podcast, and Jonathan, thank you again for having me on, is because I want vets to know that it's okay and I am here to help. And there's a lot of people here to help. But a lot of times, and I'm myself included, vets won't speak up. You can't do it by yourself, and it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay that you can't do it by yourself. That's the message I want veterans to have. Reach out, call somebody, talk to somebody, and if you don't have anybody, email me. Please do it. I'll help you get a job. I'll help you find a place to live, and I mean that sincerely.
Just to make things easier, if you go to thefatherhoodchallenge.com, that's thefatherhoodchallenge.com. If you go to this episode, look right below the episode description. I'll have all of the links that Joseph just mentioned posted there for your convenience. Joseph, as we close, what is your challenge to dads listening now?
For all dads, I would say that can hear me, be present. Be there with your family, put the phone down, put the movie away. It's cliche to hear, but the kids grow up fast. And in an ever-changing world, in a chaotic world like we have right now, dads and fathers are crucial to have to raise the next generation. And they need you to be present. Be there with them, support them, and take your wife out to dinner and buy her flowers. She earned it.
Joseph, on behalf of myself and the Fatherhood Challenge, thank you so much for your service to this country, and thank you so much for being on the Fatherhood Challenge.
My pleasure, and thank you, Jonathan, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fatherhood Challenge. If you would like to contact us, listen to other episodes, find any resource mentioned in this program, or find out more information about the Fatherhood Challenge, please visit thefatherhoodchallenge.com. That's thefatherhoodchallenge.com.
I'd like to pause and thank our proud sponsor of the Fatherhood Challenge, Zencastr. If you've thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcast production platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. But the reason I personally use and trust them with the production of this syndicated radio program is their professional broadcast quality sound. There is no better time than now to start your podcast using Zencastr for all your needs. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code FATHERHOOD, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.